Here.
Hey guys, we are
Let me turn this
live.
way.
Oh
Can you
yeah,
see
there you
better?
go. Yeah, we
My
had a
hand.
couple of small little issues, but they're fixed, so we are here. And I lost my book, and we are here today with the author of "The Princess Will Save You" by Sarah Henning. Is it Henning?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
This book was so good. Oh my goodness!
Thank you.
Like, I love The Princess Bride. I've never actually read The Princess Bride, but I love the movie.
Yeah.
And like this whole thing on the back, what if Buttercup saved Wesley? And like it does have that feel of The
Yeah.
Princess Bride, but it's like so much more than that though. And it was so good. And I kind of cried during the end of it because I had it in my mind that this was a standalone and it's not.
Not.
And I was like, wait.
Actually,
Wait.
I think that my editor forgot that it wasn't a standalone when she was reading it because I got my first notes and like I'm reading the inline notes and like as I'm going and getting close to the end, she's like, Sarah, I don't like this. Where's this going? I don't like this. It was like
Because like I hadn't looked it up on Goodreads since I grabbed the covers and stuff, and I'm like getting towards the end, and then there's that epilogue, and I'm like, well, wait, this can't end this way. Oh crap! This is a series. And I looked and there's
yeah.
oh yep, the princess will save you, #1, and I'm like,
Yes. Yes.
oh, gonna
So
die.
be prepared. But please read and buy it now because like people like to wait, and I totally understand that. But also like from a author standpoint, like that's not good for us. So
Right?
that's why
I mean,
series get canceled and everything.
I mean, it was really good though. I mean, just as it for itself. I mean, you're introduced to the characters, you're introduced to the world.
Right.
It is a full length story on its own. It
Yeah.
has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and then you just have
Yes.
this extra
A little extra something.
epilogue thing that you're
Yeah.
just like screaming at it. No, it's
Yeah.
like I can't help but thinking, how do you pronounce the girl's name in this? Because I'm like
So I
horrible.
knew this would be a question. So I pronounce it Amarande, with you pronounce the E. So, because I know that some people, if you speak French, might pronounce it Amarande. But so I pronounce it Amarande because I studied abroad in Spain. So when you get into the world, there is no map. That's a problem too.
That was like, I was gonna ask. I'm like, so, and
no
that's
map.
the finished copy. Is there like a map in here somewhere?
No, I wish there was, but maps are really expensive, basically. So my editor decided not to do it. I'm like, but the world is kind of based on the Iberian Peninsula, the peninsula that has Spain, and it's like hacked off from France. And so if you kind of picture that size of a continent, that's what we've got working with it.
Okay.
And a lot of the names are Catalan or Basque or French. So they are like a mouthful.
Well, you shortened her name, down to 3 letters, so it works. Because you don't really hear her full name, it's not something you hear constantly.
Yeah.
So
No, actually, Amarande is sort of a take on The Princess Bride. So, Buttercup obviously is a flower, and The Princess Bride heavily inspired this book. I don't consider it a retelling, but so I wanted to have a flower name and not, something super obvious. And Amarande is actually based on the amaranth flower. And in Greek, it means unfading. So I was like, that's what I want because Buttercup fades a little bit at the end of The Princess Bride, and I wanted to avoid that at all costs.
Well, she definitely don't fade in this. That's for sure, man. Woo. All right, so I like starting out the show with like telling us a little bit about who you are and your books because this is not your debut.
No.
You have a few other titles out there, and what led you to becoming an author?
Yeah. So my name's Sarah Henning, and this will be my 4th book, so I'm a 4-time author as of Tuesday the 7th. And my debut was also sort of a retelling, but not really. It's called Sea Witch. It's the origin story for Hans Christian Andersen's Sea Witch, with a little bit of retelling elements in there. And then it did well enough that they were like, you want to do a sequel? And I was like, I've been thinking about this for 3 years. So I had a sequel come out in 2019 called Sea Witch Rising. That takes place about 50 years after the first book. And then in January, I had my first YA contemporary come out. It's called Throw Like a Girl, which is about a female football player, which is about as far from like princesses and sea witches that you can get, but super fun. and really feministy. So if you like the feminist skew of this book, you will like my contemporary. And then The Princess Will Save You is a duology with Tor. And hopefully we'll get to announce the sequel title soon, I hope. But it goes along with kind of The Princess Will Save You's title. So that comes in 2021. Super excited.
So we don't have long to wait then, at least.
No,
I mean,
it's off with my editor. We're doing edits like next week. They start. So
yeah. Excited.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to do kind of like and not really a retelling, but kind of like a gender swapped retelling light of the Princess Bride?
Well, so the Princess Bride itself is, William Goldman took all of his favorite fairy tale tropes and spun a story for his daughters. Like, that's the story, is that he wrote The Princess Bride for his daughters. Yeah, which I think is really great. And then he was really heavily involved in the making of the movie because he's so attached to the story. Like, there are quotes from him saying that, like, this was the one he was nervous about the most because he wrote it for his kids. It wasn't really like him writing it for work, even though, he did. And so I love The Princess Bride. I love everything about the fairy tale in it. However, as I mentioned, like, Buttercup fades. And so when I was thinking about writing my own sort of take on a fairy tale, obviously I've already dabbled in sort of retellings. I really wanted to address what happens with Buttercup and other damsel type characters. So usually damsels have no agency, like no agency, no consent, no way to stand up to their hyper patriarchal worlds. And so in The Princess Bride, and I hope this isn't a spoiler for like anody who hasn't seen the movie or read the book.
The movie's really old. If they haven't seen it by now, oh well.
It's almost 30 years old.
Right.
So toward the end, Buttercup is super feisty in the beginning and the middle. She tries to run away from pirates. She does all sorts of things. But then toward the end, after her sham of a wedding to Humperdinck, she has given up. And somehow she has secured a private room and a dagger and is like, I'm going to end it. Like, I'm just so distraught. I'm going to end it. Until Wesley comes in and says the line about the boobs. Like, don't ruin your boobs. And saves her. And they go on their merry way. And I was always like, as a kid, I didn't quite get why that was like just not my favorite part of the movie. But as an adult, I think it was the disappointment in the fact that Buttercup, who earlier in the story, if she had been the same person, would have taken that dagger and tried to get out of that castle and tried to find Wesley. Like, the fact that she doesn't was just really like a letdown, even though she has more agency than other damsel type characters. And so I wanted to give Buttercup that dagger back and say, like, go take care of things. And so that's kind of where like the idea of the story came along. And also, if you're gender flipping the idea of the damsel, you're also having to make commentary about the world in general. Like, so our world is still very patriarchal, even though, we're in a modern society. And so I set up on purpose this really patriarchal world where this princess whose father has died, and she can't even access her own birthright power because she's a woman. She has to marry to get her power. Yeah. And so if you're the most powerful woman on your continent and you can't do what you want, like, what does that say for the other women in the story? And so even though my Buttercup, Amarande, is not in the damsel position, that is Luca, her stable boy, true love, she still has to fight a lot of the same things that a damsel would have to fight. She has to fight for consent of who she marries. She has to fight against these patriarchal structures. And she has to say, no, I have the agency to do this. I'm going to go rescue my true love. I'm going to go and do it. And then have people fighting and saying, no, you can't. And so, like, the title of this book even comes from one of the pirates. When Luca is taken, Luca's saying, she's going to come for me. Like, she's going to save me. And he's like, yeah, right. Like, fighting against her ability. And so the entire book ended up being a commentary on that, just from the idea of like, okay, so you're the damsel, but like, what can you do?
Right. So I kind of feel like Ama is kind of like a combination of Buttercup as well as the other dude in The Princess Bride. That for life of me, I do not remember what his name is.
Inigo?
What?
Inigo?
Yes, the one that's trying to avenge his father's death, which I think was like a really good blend for her. I was kind of waiting. I'm kind of waiting for like in book 2, that she like mentions like who she is and that she's here to kill this person because they killed her father. And I don't know.
Spoiler, I do have an Indigo moment in the second book, but it's not Ama who has that moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I just think it would fit so well. Because I mean, this where The Princess Bride had a lot of goofy things in it and stuff. This doesn't really have that. It's more serious. For the most part, and I think it really worked out for the story and everything. I mean, it flows so well.
Thank you.
You can tell that you're a very seasoned author, and it was so good. It was so
Thank
good.
you. I haven't gotten to talk to many people who've read the whole thing, so this is exciting for me.
So, of course, guys, I completely forgot to say, if you're watching this, if you have any questions, you can toss them in the comments below for the live chat. If you cannot put them there, you can toss them over to Instagram or Twitter and just tag me or toss me a message. My phone is right here with my other questions on it. So I will find your questions. So the next question is in book 2, one of the famous things in The Princess Bride is the RUSs. Will we see any RUSs?
I do. It's funny. My agent was like, "We need more beasts." When I gave like the draft. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like they weren't a huge goal for me, but I'm hoping we'll get the castle moment because we don't have the storming of the castle. On purpose. I saved that sucker. So, but we will see more beasts. There are some beasts in the book. They are not as cool as the RUSs, but they're there.
Like, I was so excited. I'm like, ooh, they're getting to this forest. RUSs.
Yeah, sorry.
And then we get snakes.
Yeah, they're a little bit more down to earth animals.
Right.
Yeah.
There was a mention of dragons though in there, so
yeah. Yes.
Can't not stop that one. So how did you end up with creating, Amma being such a strong character? And I mean, Luca kind of being the damsel in distress in this one. He's not he's not completely worthless though.
No.
He knows how to fight, He explains why he was taken captive, that because he's used to fighting somebody that, he knows isn't actually actively trying to kill him.
Yes.
Which makes sense, I like you added that in there. But how did you come out to creating these roles? Because I mean, in general, they're not their traditional gender roles.
Which is fun to subvert, right? Like that's the fun part, is figuring out ways to do that. Because I didn't think it would be useful to create a male damsel that has the characteristics of a typical female damsel. The shrinking violet, the worthless, not worthless, but like again, I wanted to give him agency. Like I didn't want to take all the things away from him that he wouldn't have as a male character. And so for him, he does know how to fight, but he also knows that Amma's going to come for him. He said that. So like he doesn't have like a great need to get away because he knows she's going to come and he wants to be there. It's like, when your kids are lost and you tell them to stay in one place so that people can circle back and find them. That's kind of like what he's doing. And he has his own stuff that he has to work through. He's my cinnamon roll, like my cinnamon roll boy. But he is a cinnamon roll with a dagger. And Amma, they do have some differences in their worldview, and they talk a little bit about that, about how you treat other people and her point of view versus his point of view. And I think, he's he plays a good damsel, but also like he knows how to take care of himself, and he finds ways to befriend his kidnappers and eventually get them on his side. Not to give too much away, but like he has that quality about him, whereas Amma does not.
Right. And of course, there's some other things that happen that we won't talk about. But I'm guessing book 2 is going to center around Amma trying to get her kingdom back, and Luca, dealing with the stuff that we find out, towards the end of this book. So
Yes.
is he going to come more into his own and stop being such a damsel in distress?
That's what we're trying for Luca. But he has spent his entire life. And another thing about this book is we talk about consent, right? And when we talk about girls and consent, usually it's just on like the level of boy and girl, and
Right.
if you can be kissed or not kissed or whatever. But one thing I wanted to address with this book is the power structure. So Alma's a woman, she can't actually do what she wants, but she has a ton of power over someone like Luca. She doesn't see it. She sees him as an equal. But in reality, like, she and her castle own his entire life. He has spent his entire life running her stables, working in the castle. He's been educated, fed, taken care of, everything he owes to her family and to the castle. And she doesn't realize that, and her power over him. So, like, even though she thinks they're equals as far as how they feel about each other, having that discussion of, sometimes you have the power and sometimes you don't, and you need to be respectful of anybody at any point when you're figuring out the power structures and who has it and who doesn't. So that's something that those two characters go through. And then Luca, who is not used to having any sort of power or agency or anything, he will have to come to terms with what it's like to actually try to take some power of his own in the second book. Like, he really does have to go out and put himself out there in a way that he never has in his entire life. He is happy living his little life in the castle, and it's just busted open for him.
Right. It's like, now you're gonna have to walk a mile in Alma's shoes, and you're gonna like really feel what it's like to be her.
Right. And he's learned from her, which I think is really important. But then he has to figure out how to do things his own way.
I think that's going to be kind of interesting to see him to start taking, his own initiative and being a leader and all of that without, giving, everything away here. It's hard to talk about things you don't talk about. Hard to talk about those things. Let's see. Okay. So the next question is, I'm guessing this is copyrighted. That's why you couldn't use it. But,
it's not open. It's not, what is it? Open domain or whatever. Which is part of the reason, it can't be a straight retelling. The Sea Witch books that I have, which again I don't consider to be retellings at all, that is like open. You can use anything from the Little Mermaid, but in this case you can't. But what William Goldman did was he used fairy tales we already know, and so I'm doing that just as much as he is.
I wish you could have used that, the whole "as you wish" thing, but I'm guessing that's copyrighted.
No, I mean,
it's not. Okay.
No, I don't think you can copyright like a phrase like that. Actually, I've done something with "as you wish" within the book that I know some people are gonna hate.
Oh no.
I mean, you probably noticed who says "as you wish" in the book, but it's not Luca.
I don't remember.
You have to go back and read.
You read it too fast. I'm gonna have to go back.
You read it too fast.
Story of my life. Let's see. Have a writing question. What was your favorite or hardest scene to write?
So, like The Princess Bride, and this is where like the story does kind of converge. I did kind of do my own send up of the why can't I think of what it's called in the book right now? The Workshop of Doom or whatever the six-fingered man is. It has a name. Like, I can't think of it because we're on video. And that was a really difficult scene to write. Like, it was definitely, I don't know. When you're watching the movie, it's hard. When you're reading the book, it's hard. My take is different, but definitely was really difficult to write, even though I knew it was coming. There's also, because it's a send-up of The Princess Bride, there's a very disastrous wedding that occurs that was really fun to write, actually. So, because I've been looking forward to it this whole time. But actually, beyond Ama and Luca, some of the side characters were really fun to write. There is one of the kidnappers is a female pirate named Ula, who was super, super fun. Her interactions with Luca and with the other pirates were great. She was really enjoyable. And then the villains, these boys that are in this neighboring kingdom and are the most like natural suitors for Amma when she has to get married are terrible people because their mother's terrible and they've lost their father. But they have a really fun little bond, and I really enjoyed writing those characters quite a bit. They're actually really compelling.
See, I can cheat because I ended up with an e-copy of the book, so I can go just look up as you wish. Oh, it was him, Bernard.
Yeah. Fun to write, not a great person.
No, and I won't spoil that one for you guys because I almost said something, and it's like, no, don't say anything. Shush. Will we see any prequels? Because I mean, the pirates, and how they came together as a crew and their ship and everything. I think it'd be really interesting to see how like they had all met up. And
I do have some answers to that in the second book, as long as they survive. The second book is really long.
They survive.
So, well, I mean, like they survive as in like it's really long and might get cut. So, yeah, it's far too long. We'll see.
It's like, how long is it right now?
Right now, without any edits, it's 120,000 words, which is really long. Like it's about 100 pages longer than this book.
Oh, okay. See, I'd be fine with that. That would have worked out just fine. Because I mean, this one says it's like 368 pages for the hardcover. I'd have been fine with, almost 500 pages. I wouldn't have said no to that.
Well, we might get there. I don't know. We'll see. I tend to add when I revise, so I can't see it getting shorter unless I ask you.
It's hard. It's hard because it's like, what do you cut?
Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard when you know everything that could happen.
So can you tell us where book 2 picks up?
Like literally right after book 1.
Yes. Those are the nice ones because like, there's been some of them where, like a span of time has, 6 months, a year has gone by, which kind of works out if it's, a year since the last time that, the book had came out to the next one. So then it's like real time. But then it's like, okay, well then where's my story of what happened in that span of time? Did they just, stay on the ship and twiddle their thumbs? And I don't know.
Right.
Luca learned how to fight even more,
Yeah, fighting montage.
And like people got haircuts and stuff like that, and they learned to do things.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, let's see. Okay, so of course, we're all still in all this COVID nonsense, and other people have been lucky enough to be able to stay home, unlike me, who still has to go to work.
Oh, well, I have to work from home with 2 kids, so it's.
Oh, that's always fun. How old are your kids?
11 and 5.
Oh, you got little ones. Well, a bigger one, a little one. Yeah, mine are 9 and one just turned 16 yesterday. So,
happy birthday!
Boy.
Yeah.
So, what have you been reading?
Barely anything. And my own words over and over, which really sucks. Yeah, no, COVID, the timing of COVID was not great because I was on deadline for the second book and writing it way too long, and had to ask for more time right before everything hit, and then had to ask for more time again. And I'm a former journalist, so like asking for more time is like the worst thing I've ever done. I cannot handle missing a deadline. And so, yeah, it's been a struggle. And then I turned that book in May finally, and then I had another deadline because I actually have a first draft of a book due the same time as the revision for book 2 of this. Plus, I have a full-time job and 2 kids. And so I do like occasionally, like when I do interviews, I like to explain my writing schedule, although it's kind of gone out of it's been blown out of the water. But basically, I get up at 4:15 every day and I run 7 miles, and then I'm thinking about what I'm going to write while I run. And then I get home and I turn on the coffee pot and I write until 7 or until my kids stop me. And I go about my day. And since COVID has hit, that is stopped. I knew that I was attached to my schedule for getting things done. Because that work during the week really helps, so that the weekends I do usually take a couple of hours each afternoon to get stuff done, but the pressure's off if I can get some stuff done during the week. And it's been impossible. Like, I get back from running, and I usually am very tempted to start my work, like day job day, just in case, like, I get interrupted a million times by two kids. And so, like, it's really thrown me for a loop as far as my writing time, also because I can't get away. So,
Right.
you know, like, if your family is in the house and you're trying to concentrate and be in this other world, it can be really difficult. You know, like, I can hear everything, even though we have a rather large house in the suburbs. So my husband actually got me noise canceling headphones for my birthday last week, and I think they're going to help me immensely because, you know, I just need to try to, like, put myself away so that I can get these things done. I know some people have been really prolific during the pandemic, and I am not one of them. It's so weird because I never am the type of person to procrastinate or do anything. I feel like I like failing at everything. And it also kind of affects your creativity, right? If you can't refill that creative well by reading as much, it can be really hard to be creative. And so I have been reading more contemporary lately, I think, because contemporary without COVID is nice. So I've been reading By the Book by Amanda Soleil, who I'm in conversation with on my debut day on the 7th. Because I'm savoring it because I'm reading it really slowly because it's so nice to just read about teenagers in a world like this doesn't exist. You know, and they're doing normal things like going to parties and going to school. And, like, you know, so it's been difficult, to say the least, for me.
Are you in a state that was hit really hard, or?
No, I'm in Kansas. Luckily,
Okay.
we have a badass governor. She was the first one, like one of the first governors to close schools. She was like, we're done. Like, because she knew that, you know, we have a lot of rural areas, and and she knew that if she didn't mandate things, that it would, you know, they would be slower to close, and then we would just end up with these hotspots like forever. Like, so, because, you know, we do have meat packing plants where they're seeing a lot of COVID. And so she was just like, everybody's shutting it down. And so that has really helped our response as far as COVID's concerned. And then I live in a college town, and the college kids happened to be on spring break when everything hit. And so they just didn't have them come back. I mean, obviously they came back to get their stuff.
Right.
Some of them still lived here and just finished the semester virtually. But some of them just stayed home. And so it changes things when a third of your population is gone. And so, you know, trying to figure things out has been interesting because it's just so sad to think about, like, you know, kids taking a gap year, and the whole city is going to be different. So, yeah, we're all trying to figure it out. We don't know what's happening.
It's crazy. I know they just mandated masks for my county now.
Yeah, our statewide mask
fun
went
time.
back today. Yeah, but our county actually put it in Wednesday. So, yeah, it, you know, and people here were wearing masks for sure.
Right.
Yeah, but it's been something.
I don't see it stopping anytime soon. But living in Kansas, you know, my first thought for like retelling would have been, you know, like The Wizard of Oz. Yeah.
No, you know, Daniel Page already has that covered.
That was a good book though. Dorothy Must Die series is amazing.
Yes, and she is a fantastic person. I really love her. She, you know, she barely knew me, and she was just so great. She read Sea Witch and promoted it and just loved it, and like so very nice. Such a wonderful person. Yeah, no, I live in Kansas, and it's not what you think.
Never is
what I tell people.
Never is.
Yeah, no, I live in Lawrence, which is where the University of Kansas is, and it's right outside of Kansas City, and it's super fun.
Isn't that where Dean and Sam are from?
Yes, I get that question a lot. Yes, the gates of hell are over in Stoll, which is actually, when I was a newspaper reporter, part of my job, I was a features reporter. So for a long time, I was a sports reporter, which is the whole story behind my January book, for like a girl.
Well, that's cool.
But for a while, I was features reporter before I moved on from journalism. And part of my beat was to cover religion. And the poor people who run the Methodist Church in Stoll were constantly trying to keep people out of their cemetery because they'd watch the Winchesters and were just like trying to find the gates of hell like all the time. So yeah, no, they're from Lawrence.
Oh goodness,
it's worth it. Yes, I get that question a lot actually.
Where it's on the TV and then it's like it automatically becomes a tourist attraction.
Yeah, I think they're kind of annoyed because I mean it's not a very big place. Like it's much smaller than Lawrence. So yes.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see. Megan LaCroix said, and if I butcher your name, I'm sorry. Hey Sarah, any idea on when you'll be able to share the title cover for Princess 2?
Yes. I don't know. I know. All I know is it's approved. So I'm not sure when.
Have you seen the cover?
I have not seen the cover.
You haven't even seen the cover.
The title's approved, and the concept that I sent them for the cover is approved. So I'm just waiting for Charlie Bowater to work her wonderful magic and come up with something.
Okay. Well, I like the cover. It seems like this year they're putting, people's faces on covers, because
the whole story behind that actually was, I don't know if you've ever seen the cover of the Princess Bride book, but it's like the paperback is basically two actors that look like the actors from the movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
And it actually looks like the scene in the fire swamp where, she's clinging to him and he's got his sword out. And so I was like, let's lean really hard into this, but gender swap it. And and Charlie really got what we were doing. She sent some concepts. I think it was last August actually, and then we narrowed them down from there.
They look very serious, man.
I know. They're gonna totally murder you.
Like they are going to. You don't piss them off because they're gonna cut you.
They really could. Yeah, no, I've been so lucky with all of my covers. My covers for Sea Witch are by Anna Dittman, who's another artist that lives in England because they all do. I guess. She lives in Scotland, but she's American, and her covers for Sea Witch and Sea Witch Rising are just incredible. They're amazing. And then Charlie's covers, she's the cover artist du jour, in YA for a reason. She does these fierce characters and she captures them so well. So super lucky to have her. And then my contemporary cover is really cute too, but it's not illustrated. It's actual actors.
Oh yeah, I've seen the cover for Like a Girl.
Yeah, have you not seen it?
That looks nice.
It's right up here. I can pull it. But yeah, no, actually that was really neat in that we got to cast the actors, the models. And so I got to rank them and then we were so lucky that our top choices were available and they just knocked it out of the park. To use a sports analogy because it's a sports film.
Of course. Gotta have that. So for people who want to get a copy of this title coming out on the 7th.
Yes.
Where should
you can
they
get
go?
it at every major retailer. If you want a signed copy or a personalized copy, you can get it from my local indie, the Raven Bookstore. And there's a link in my Instagram bio that has information on if you want pre-order goodies, and then also links directly to their site so you can get their goodies because they're just a tiny indie bookstore, but they're just fantastic and they'll get it out to you. They're shipping things out today and Monday, and you'll get it just as quickly as you will from those bigger guys.
Woohoo! And it'll be signed,
And it'll be signed.
Because I am all for. I have a small obsession that's not so small with signed copies. So
yeah, they're pretty cool to have. That's for sure.
Awesome.
I have mine all in a special place too.
They're so cool though. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I cannot wait for book 2. I am going to be scouring the hills, once you state that it's hit, Idlewice or NetGalley or wherever it happens to be, because I want to read it.
Awesome.
Thank you guys for watching. And of course, guys, guess what? There's not one show today. There's 2. We will be talking with Corey Haydu at 6:30 about her book Evercurse, and I zoomed through that one. That one was pretty good. So I will catch you guys at 6:30. Bye.